Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to study The Fun They Had by Isaac Asimov of class 9. Now let's get started. Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. On the page headed 17 May 2157, she wrote, "Today Tommy found a real book. It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on paper. They turned the pages which were yellow and crinkly. It was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to on a screen. And then, when they turned back to the page before, it had the same words on it that it had when they read it the first time. So, Marky is a girl of 11 years of age. She writes a diary on the night of 17 May 2157. 2157 means this story is based on future. At that time, Margie writes an entry in her diary and she writes that Tommy found a real book and she is feeling strange because at that time real books do not exist. They only have e-books. E-books means virtual books. Books in the form of print on paper are not active at that time. So Margie is astonished to see a real book. Margie is reminded of her grandfather. He told her that his grandfather studied the books that were printed on paper. So, this kind of book is historical and ancient for Tommy and Margie. Something they cannot believe and they cannot imagine. Margie is talking about the book that Tommy had found when she says that the pages of the book had turned yellow and they have been crushed as it was very old. The children found it very funny to read the words which stood still. Now, what does it mean by that words that stood still? As the words are printed on the pages, they do not move. On the other hand, the books that Margie and Tommy used to read were online, that is, e-books. So in ebooks, how it happens is the text keeps on moving as your screen moves. But it was different in the time of books printed on paper. This was a very strange experience for these children who were learning in ebooks. When you have a book which is printed on paper, whenever you flip the pages, you get to see the same thing written on the pages. On the other hand, in an ebook, the text keeps on changing on the screen. The screen is same, but you have the same screen in front of you, but the text keep on changing. So whenever you go back, the text is different. Gee, said Tommy, what a waste. When you are through with the book, you just throw it away, I guess. A television screen must have had a million of books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I wouldn't throw it away. Same with mine, said Margie. She was 11 and hadn't seen many books as Tommy had. He was 13. She said, "Where did you find it?" In my house. He pointed without looking because he was busy reading. In the attic. What is it about? School. Then Tommy disliked the printed books. He said that it was a waste because he felt that whenever you complete reading a book, you have to throw it away. You cannot have some different story written on the same book. But he felt that the computer screen was better as compared to books because the same screen had shown him many books, still, he could read many more on it. He wouldn't have to throw that screen away when once he had read a particular story. Margie also agreed with Tommy's opinion. Margie was only 11 years of age and she has not read as many books as Tommy had read because Tommy was older than Margie. He was 13 years of age. Marky asked Tommy that where had he found the printed book. Then Tommy replied to Marky that he found the printed book in the storeroom of his house. He was so busy reading in the book that he did not remove his glance from the book. Then Marky asked that what the book was about. Tommy replied to her that the book was about school, about going to school, about the life at the school. Marky was scornful. School? What's there to write about school? I hate school. Marky always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. Marky hated the war school, and so she said that what was there to write about it, that an entire book had been written about school. Marky always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. Marky's school is a mechanical teacher. Now, why did Margie hate school? Margie's school was a virtual classroom. It is not about a real book that we have nowadays or that we have today. In the future, we are thinking that the schools will be virtual classrooms. In virtual classroom, the mechanical teacher will be teaching the children. Margie hated the mechanical teacher because it was giving her so many tests in geography which were very difficult for her, and she was performing very poor. One day, when her mother thought that there was something wrong with the machine, so she had called the county inspector to check. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again, but he knew how all right. And after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which all lessons were shown and the questions were asked. That wasn't so bad. The part Margie hated the most was the slot where she had to put homework and test papers. She always had to write them out in a punch code they made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. So the county inspector came to check the mechanical teacher. He was a round little man and he had a red face. He was carrying a box full of tools with dials and wires. So this man opened the machine. He was there to repair it. Once he had opened the computer, Marky wished that he would be unable to close it back because she did not like the computer. She did not like to study from this mechanical teacher. But the man was so expert, the county inspector was so expert, and within an hour or so, he had repaired the computer or a mechanical teacher and has closed it and made it ready to teach Margie once again. Then Margie gives a description of the computer. She feels that it is very huge and it is black in color, and she dislikes its appearance. It has a big screen and all the lessons appear on the screen, and many questions are asked on the same screen, which are difficult for Margie. So Margie hated the mechanical teacher the most because she had to submit the homework and test paper to it. Margie had to write her homework and her test paper in a particular punch code that is a computing language or computing language, which she had learned the language at the age of 6. The machine checked the papers and calculated her marks in a few seconds. The inspector had smiled after she was finished. He was finished and patted Margie's head. He said to her mom, "It is not the little girl's fault, Mr. Jones. I think the geography sector was geared a little too quick. Those things happen sometimes. I have slowed it up to an average 10-year level. Actually, the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory." And he patted Margie's head again. Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping they would take the teacher away altogether. They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had blanked out completely. So she said to Tommy, "Why would anyone write about school?" So the county inspector said that the Margie was getting worse mark or poor marks in geography as the machine was not working. Its level was geared to a higher level. Then he said that sometimes machines fails to function normally, and that had happened this time. The inspector had slowed it down and set it to an average 10-year level. He also said that Margie was learning at a good pace. He again patted her head to cheer her up. Margie was very sad because she did not want to learn, and she wanted the inspector should take it away. Margie is reminded when Tommy's mechanical teacher had been taken away for a repair for almost 1 month and he was enjoying his time. It had been taken away because the history sector had been wiped out. So the mechanical teacher had to be taken away for repair. As we all know, the reason why Margie dislikes school. So she asked Tommy that why would anyone write about school? So this is it for today till paragraph 5. We will continue it in the next part. So if you like this video, do like, share and subscribe.